Yo, what's good? It's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Today I want to do this video about why Terrence Bud Crawford has propelled the sport of boxing into the future. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button for me, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. Look, something that I always say in any sport, right? I grew up and I played basketball. I hooped, right? And I was one of those athletes that could play anything. Badminton, soccer, tennis, golf, rugby. It didn't matter if it had a ball, a disc. It didn't matter what it was. I could do it. I could figure it out. So one of those athletes who could watch and put it together and perform it at a high level. But my sport was basketball. But one of the things that you learn in any sport, that there's levels to this. That there are those of us who apply not just practice, but a love of practice, the love of the process of becoming great that allows you to advance to levels that supersede the dominant majority. And then even when you get to that level, there are levels above that where you look into physical gifts, right? Guys who are just naturally more explosive, right? Longer, taller, more athletic, right? You have guys who have more access to training and practice and put in more hours, right? I remember I was a kid. We used to have Slam magazine. And I remember reading this quote by Kobe Bryant. And he said, when I'm practicing, I don't train for the competition that I see. I train for the guy who I don't see. I train for the guy that I won't know until I'm facing him. And every time that I've let up in practice, every time that I've skipped a workout, he's in the gym. That's who I'm training for. And you know what? That was something that I embodied. Now, I didn't have all the resources. I grew up broke, kind of poor, right? So I didn't have the ability to get all the coaching and all that, but I worked my ass off. I trained every single day, got my behind up, went to the park, dribbled all the way about a mile away to the park, worked on my game, and I began to accelerate. And the dominant majority of people I will probably face from this point on, I'm almost 40, but anyone that I would ever face from this point on, I'm going to be better than. Just because of the work that I put in at 12, 13, 14, 15. But at the same time, there were levels to it. Because even when I was developing my game and playing at a high level, probably when I was at my most confident, probably in my early 20s, I was always confident. But when I had that combination of the physical, where I was working out in the gym and I was squatting and getting my leg strength and studying how to train in my core and my explosiveness, and I was banging on cast head. Even then, I would come across guys who were on different levels. And the crazy part about it was they would be on different levels in different ways. They would be on different levels as a shooter, as a ball handler, as an athlete, their height, their understanding of nuance. I'd face a guy who played overseas, and he would show me how to get his shot off quicker. And I'd be like, damn, that's another level. But even then, you begin to see that there's a continuation and a continuation. And at some point, you get to the pinnacle. You get to where there's only a few. I never got there. I'm not even going to front. But there's only a few. And Terrence Bud Crawford has worked his ass off to be one of those few. He is on the pound for pound list, undisputed, at the top, number one. There's nobody close. Nobody else there. It's him. But this is why he has advanced the sport of boxing into the future. The first one is that he reminds all of us of the idea of the American dream, the idea of meritocracy, the idea that based upon your hard work, you can advance yourself from any state in life and be great. You know, one of the things that I talked about in my last video about him trying to change the perception and image of himself to not just only be relegated to his past, but also include everything that he's evolved into as a man, as a father, as a family man, as a community member, somebody who represents his neighborhood, his city, right? He's somebody who puts others on, right? Whether it's a Shakur Stevenson running his own gym. He's a businessman. He's so many things. And his origins is a major part of what made him. And coming from those origins, where so many of us don't make it out of, where so many of us slip up, where so many of us get caught up and never get the opportunity. Even in his story, he was able to be blessed, as he would even put it, that God gave him a second chance. That he knew that there was a purpose, that there was a reason why he survived. And he took that to heart and he decided to be great. But it was not an easy road, because if you follow his career and many of the things that they would say, he was a hothead. He was somebody who coaches didn't always like to work with, and everybody kind of shunned him and pushed him to the side and didn't believe in him and overlooked him and looked past him and underestimated him. And he was always having to prove himself over and over and over and over again. Even his own promoter, Bob Arum, didn't believe in him in the same way, right? Started talking bad about him in media, which is something you never do as a promoter, because this is somebody who you are trying to build up their image. So why would you say things like, I've lost money on him, right? Why would you do things like not give him big time fights with Manny Pacquiao when you're represented by the same promoter? And yet he still overcame that adversity. He had to take his career into his own hands. Right. And this is kind of going into the second point. But it's to say that he took his career into his own hands and he dared to be great. He took on all comers, whoever was willing to face him. He goes up to 147 pounds, and something that he even points out, people were questioning his size. People were questioning his power, his strength. And yet you saw his very first fight against Horn, the guy who bullied Manny Pacquiao. He turned into the bully. He was bullying Jeff Horn around. He was pushing him around, and he stopped him. And everybody at 147 pounds, he's stopped. He's knocked out. He's put down. Have not been able to go to the distance with him. This is what he did in preparation for his moment of greatness. This is what reminds those of us who watch the sport, those who are in the sport as professionals or even amateurs, about what this is about. It is about your preparation and your belief in yourself that you can be great. The second point is that he reminds boxers of the importance of being willing to bet on yourself. This is something that I first saw with the heavyweight champion Deontay, the Bronze Bomber Wilder, who bet on himself, who took his career in his own hands, who was his own manager, his own agent. He made his contracts. He decided who he was going to fight, who he wasn't going to fight. If he's going to sign a contract with a promotion agency for a set number of fights, or he just makes it himself. And he figures out how to navigate his own career with his own business acumen, with his own intellect, with his own belief in himself. What we call in our community king shit. That's what a king does. A king is not worried about taking the losses in his pursuit of his own greatness. He's not worried about taking the losses. He's focused on his greatness, his purpose, his path, and he carved it out. And what you see is Terrence Crawford come in a similar vein. He bet on himself. He left Bob Arum. He went over to PBC. He signed the deal, and he got the big fight. And when he got there, he was nothing but great. And what he showed us, and I also want to make sure that I give Errol Spence props, because as Terrence Crawford even said in the ring, this would not have happened without you. Errol Spence could have dodged. He could have done a Mayweather where he said, hey, this is too dangerous. It's not worth the risk. Right? And Floyd even said it in an interview. He didn't want Errol Spence to fight Bud. He said, that's not the route I would have had him take. Floyd Mayweather is different. He's different. He's on a different type of king shit. I'm I'm going to say he is a king in his own right because he steered his own path. But I think what he's done to the sport of boxing is something that a lot of us became frustrated with. That it became more about being perfect than great. And that being perfect is how you prove that you're great. Even if you're dancing around and you're cherry picking and you're dodging and ducking in order to maintain that undefeated. And what Terrence Bud Crawford and Errol Spence have shown us is that that's not what this is about. That you can take an L and still be great. I fully expect to see Errol Spence come back and at least go all 12 rounds. I expect to see him go all 12 rounds, even if he loses by decision. I expect him to come back and be better, sharper, and hungrier. Hungrier than he's ever been. I don't know if y'all saw the recent tweet, but he was capping on folks like, hey, all y'all out here who are supposed to be supporting me, all of a sudden I lose and you're telling me to retire? Yo, I told y'all at the end of my video, I said, yo, he was not tired. He was not stopping. He was continuing to fight, which showed us that he still had fight in him. Yeah, he was losing. He had fight in him. The fight had not gotten beat out of him. Maybe he hadn't figured out how to execute it. Maybe he hadn't figured out how to win and to get to his destination that he desired to, but the fight wasn't gone. It wasn't gone. And that's something that we sometimes have to be able to distinguish between someone who's gotten the fight beat out of him and someone who just happened to have lost. Big difference. Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis, he got the fight beat out of him. He got knocked down. He didn't want no more. It was obvious. He's on some other shit. But there are other cats who dare to be great. And so I got to give Errol Spence props also. The last point. He has reminded fighters that there are levels to this. That there are levels to this. And when I say levels to this, he showed a level of boxing acumen, IQ, and expertise in combination with his God-given gifts of his athleticism, something that Errol Spence's trainer pointed out very early as they were talking about the fight. He said one thing that stood out to him is Terrence Crawford's athleticism, his ability to move, his footwork, his speed, his explosiveness, his timing. Some shit you just can't teach. But even then, there are guys who have great athleticism and ability and never master the skill. You know, circumstances sometimes help athletes. I remember a time there was a friend of mine I used to hoop with, and he was right-handed and he broke his right hand. And so we spent the whole summer playing left-handed. It's the first time I seen somebody be fully ambidextrous. Be able to finish layups, dribble with his left hand just as good as his right hand. He could almost shoot just as good with his left as he could his right. With range. That's when I started working on it. And I was like, damn, I want that. You see, what Terrence Bud Crawford showed you is like, even a great fighter can be exposed when you understand how to execute expertise and talent and skill and ability at such a level that you can even beat the best, the favored, the A side, the one everybody picks over you. Well, he reminded guys like Anthony Joshua, even a Deontay Wilder, right? Even though I feel like Deontay Wilder probably already got his lesson from fighting Tyson Fury. No capping on him. It's just to say that sometimes when you lose, if you listen to my last video, that sometimes when you lose, you learn more than you ever would have in the wins. Which is why I fully expect Errol Spence to come back and go all 12 rounds in December. You know, many times there are things that you don't even see, that you can't see until you see greatness go up against greatness. There are things, there are adjustments, there are strategies that only get deployed when you're fighting another amazing fighter. Not a good fighter, not even a great fighter, an amazing fighter. Errol Spence is an amazing fighter. Yeah, they're like, okay, he's basic. He's not doing all these different things. He's running through the boxing ranks. I fully expect when he gets to 154 pounds and gets past Terrence Crawford, that he's going to run through those ranks. I fully expect it. I don't see anybody there that's going to be able to see him. And I wouldn't be shocked if he's able to move up to 160 and get a championship there as well and go down in Boxing Hall of Fame. It's all to say that even then, he can be exposed. And it doesn't detract from his greatness. It just shows that there's levels to this. And when we all see it in plain sight, the levels, it elevates all of us. When we saw Stephen Curry shooting the way he was, it elevated everyone. When we saw LeBron James be able to utilize his talent and ability to make everyone better and to carry teams to the NBA Finals over and over and over, it elevated all of us. All of us had to learn a little bit more. All of us were forced to focus and understand just a little bit more. And when you see the work ethic, when you see the dedication and the diligence and how it performs at the highest level, it elevates all of us. And as a result, the sport of boxing is probably in the best place it's been, probably since back in the day with the Hagler and Hearns, right? From the Sugar Ray Leonard, from the greats who dared to be great, from the Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, from those who dared to be great. Now, I'm not sure where this fight is going to be. I think I'm going to do a video later on about what I think the outcome is going to be for December. But right now, I want to know what you all think. How do you think Terrence Bud Crawford's win against Errol Spence Jr. helped the sport of boxing? Not just his legacy, not just their legacy, but how do you think it helped the sport of boxing? Thinking about you got guys like Shakur Stevenson coming up. You got Devin Haney, the Dream, right? You got guys like Gervonta Tank Davis, right? You got these up-and-comers who have been kind of managed. I would say, shit, I might even do a video about this. Freak it. You know what I mean? Because Devin, the Dream Haney, I believe he's dared to be great. He's fought the best of his division at 135, going up to 140 now. He fights the best. He doesn't dodge him. He calls him out and he fights him and he makes the fights. And he takes his career into his own hands. I love it. I love it. And I'm going to do a video about it. But with that, yo, it's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. I got told to do more of these boxing videos. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section. And I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.